Okay, jumping right back into it, what we're trying to do is create a calculator from scratch. We know that we want to add, subtract, multiply, divide, basic calculator, and we want it to continually ask the user questions until the user says no. All right, so what we're going to do is create a file, a Python file. Okay, so I'm going to say create a new text file, and I already have one, but I'll name it again. But what we'll do is we'll first save this, okay, Control S, and go to Python, okay, Python, and I already named it Learning Process 1. I didn't do much in it, but what you're gonna do is just name it Learning Process 1, because we're gonna go through a bunch of different things to get us to the ability to, at least in this video, to run a function, and I'll tell you what a function is throughout this process, okay? To replace it, say yes. Okay, good. So one of the very first things that we want to, again, notice is that we want to be able to add, subtract, multiply, divide. And so let's just go ahead and just try that out. So if you do 1 plus 1, that is legit code. Good job on running this. And if you press this play button, it will run the code. Okay. Now you can say good job. My good job was premature. When you run this, I gotta do it again, you see that nothing shows up. So it's imperative that you print something, that you display something, and come to find out the code for displaying it, or for printing, is called print. Okay, so you do print parentheses, and if we print this, that'll be good. That works. That's amazing. And so that's nice. So we're getting somewhere. So if I wanted to do like 100, plus, or let's say minus 1, ideally, we would get 99. Okay, good. Like you see here. With that being said, there's before you can get to, the actual nuts and bolts, there's another element that we have to discuss, which is actually storing this information, number 1 and number 2 into something. So what I mean by that is I can actually store this information as, let's say, num1, we use the equal sign, is equal to 3, and then num2 is equal to 4. So if I do num1 plus num2, what do you think is going to happen when I run this? If you said nothing, you're correct. Okay, if I run this, it's not gonna do anything. But if I put a print around this, okay, it's gonna print out my number 7. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. What's key now is for me to explain a concept that one would argue is typically taught later on within a Python course, but since we're learning by doing, we're going to legitimately talk about it now because it's worthy of talking about. And the concept is utilizing a generic form to process our numbers, So what I mean by that is if I know that I'm going to add, I should have an add form. If I don't want to subtract, I know I should have a subtract form, rather than me, typing plus every single time, or rather than me, typing times all the time. I should have a generic form. And the thing is, I say form, the terminology is called a function. Okay, is a function, and how it works is in like this following image. You have an input, you plug it into the function, and then you get a corresponding output. Okay, we're going to return this output. So you have input, and then you're going to plug it into this function and have this particular output. Okay, so let's actually see how this is going to work in our case. So in our case, I'm going to say here how we would do this. Let's say, for example, we want to create an add function. The actual syntax, or at least the code that's used to be able to do this, is by utilizing this thing called def, which is definition, add, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use num1, comma, num2. Okay. And then all I need to do here is add a colon to end the naming of the function. Okay. And then from there, all I would do is say return num1 plus num2. Okay. So now I can actually put in two numbers into add, let's say 3 and 4. And if you think about this, you should know what's going to happen. Okay, if I do this, okay. Oh, because I already had it here. Sorry. Well, this should make sense that it said 12, because we already have this here being done. So let's go ahead. I'm not going to erase it, but I'm going to just comment this out. What I mean by comment this out, that means that I'm just going, when it runs the program, it's going to ignore these lines. Okay, it's just going to ignore these lines. So when I run this, okay, I'll run this again. Sorry, play. Nothing shows up because I didn't print anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as result. Okay, save this as result, and I'm going to say print result, and that should give me my corresponding answer for adding 7. Okay, or if I can change this to 9, okay, it should be 12. Okay, good. So that works. Now, since that works, let's go ahead and create the other functions. Why don't you all pause this video and create the other 4 functions for adding, subtracting, and so on. I'm going to do it now. So I'll do it. Thank you for returning back. Let's do subtraction, subtract. Let's do multiply. Let's do divide. Okay, so then let's do def, subtract, and all you have to do here is going to be num1, comma num2, and then all you're going to do is return num1 minus num2. Okay. For multiplication, let's do this again. Define multiplication, multiply num1, input num2, those are our inputs. Okay, return, spell it correctly of course, num1 times num2. And then last but not least, what we'll do is we'll do define divide num1 num2, and then finally return num1, I got ahead of myself, num1 divided by num2. Okay, so let's just go ahead and try each one out in this video. We already know that addition works. Let's do subtract. Subtract. This will be 3. So 3 and 9. We should get -6. Good job. Let's do multiply. What should we get? We should get 27. Good. And then divide. We should get 0.333333333333. Okay, good. So that is that. I appreciate you watching so far. And we have more steps to do, but we're getting there. Learn by doing.